What does a real emergency look like in Washington, D.C.? We already know. It was January 6th, when thousands of violent rioters stormed Congress at Donald Trump's urging, beating police officers, threatening the vice president, and leaving chaos in their wake. On that day, Trump sat back and did nothing. No National Guard, no leadership, just silence. Compare that with today, when Trump claims D.C. is a crime-ridden wasteland, despite the lowest crime levels in 30 years. It's a distraction, a smokescreen, because behind the noise.
Thanks, Senator Schumer. We're going to start with questions with Congressman Raskin.
Thank you very much, Senator Durbin and Senator Schumer. Thanks for joining us and for your powerful leadership on behalf of the rule of law and the Constitution in New York and all over the country. Your citation of Senator Warnock reminds me of something that Ben Franklin said, where he said, I've observed that wrong is always growing more wrong until there's no bearing it anymore, but that right, however opposed, comes right at last. And so
Warnock paraphrased Benjamin Franklin.
Well, they were thinking along parallel lines, undoubtedly.
Thank you, Jamie.
Thank you for joining us. I want to recognize my Democratic colleagues who've joined us today. Hank Johnson from Georgia, Ted Lieu from California, Deborah Ross from North Carolina, Chuy Garcia from Illinois, Mary Gay Scanlon from Pennsylvania, and Becca Ballin from Vermont. But I just have a couple of questions for you guys. One is I want to say that when, pursuant to Senator Warnock and Ben Franklin, we get through this nightmare, and we will, and when we reclaim the trajectory of American history for democracy and freedom, and we will, all of you will be remembered by future generations for what you did to stand up for us during this time. And I don't want you to think that anybody doesn't notice, because we do notice what it is you're doing. But I want to ask you this, because in addition to the substantive defense of the rule of law and the Constitution you're engaged in, all of you are also modeling what it means to be an attorney general. Because we've got an attorney general of the United States who literally thinks her job is to be the president's lawyer and to do whatever the president wants her to do, and thinks that the Department of Justice is the law firm for the president and his political party. I mean, that's a remarkable deformation and diversion of American history. So although it's indisputable that all of you are Democrats, I don't think you are here to represent the Democrats or the Democratic Party of your state. And I just wonder if you would say a word about what it means to you to be an attorney general and to try to act on behalf of the rule of law and not a political program. Perhaps Attorney General Rowell, if you'd start.
Thank you for that question. I serve as the Attorney General of the state of Illinois, and in Illinois, I am independently elected from the governor, and by way of that, I serve the rule of law. I don't serve the governor. I do represent the governor. I represent the agencies within the state, but I serve the rule of law, and I take that distinction very seriously, and I think that the U.S. Attorney General should operate with the same sort of, she shouldn't be loyal to the president, but she should be loyal to the rule of law. That does not mean you're not representing the government and the administration, but you have to do so within the bounds of the rule of law, and we take that very seriously.
Is there any one of you who would describe your job as being the governor's lawyer? Exclusively, in any way, okay. So I don't know if anybody wanted to add anything else on this. Yes, Attorney General Campbell.
I'll just add, similar in Massachusetts, elected by the people, and I'm accountable to the people in upholding the rule of law and protecting their rights and protecting our state's economy. I would just stress, and I think the NIH case, which we were all a part of, whether it's the first case or even the second iteration of that case, to protect access to these critical life-saving medical research, clinical trials. This is billions of dollars that go to every state in the country. We came together not looking at, okay, how do we just protect those who are Democrats or identify as Democrats in this country? We came together recognizing the unlawful actions by this administration to cut that funding. in NIH1 quickly on a Friday night and mobilized to show up in court on Monday because we knew what was at stake. When you talk about a child having pediatric cancer or a vet dealing with PTSD, we don't look at whether or not they have a D or an R by their names. We mobilize to advance that litigation to protect the public health, not even only of those folks in our state, but to protect the public health of everyone across this country while at the same time upholding the rule of law. And I think it's just a great example of a great example of how we do our work regardless of political affiliation or even demographic.
Well, thank you for doing that. And Ellison and Plotkin, let me just twist the question a little bit. One of the things you guys are doing is defending the integrity of federal laws and programs that we've adopted. And because of the very restrictive standing rules that the court has imposed against Congress going to court to try to get our laws implemented, in a weird way, you're standing up for the laws that we've participated in passing. But that's for all of the people, because after all, it's your representatives in Congress who voted for them as well. But I wonder if you could just reflect a little bit on that role you're playing in terms of making federal law work for everybody in the country as a state attorney general.
Chairman Raskin, we regard the laws that Congress passes as fundamentally the prerogative of the people who populate this country and send members to Congress. And so for an executive to usurp the role of Congress in appropriations or establishment of agencies or anything like that, we view as an outrageous overreach that simply cannot be tolerated. As I noted in my comments, the things that the president is trying to do, you probably can do if you follow the rules, but you cannot do it vis-a-vis executive order or edict or proclamation or this is how I feel this morning. The fact is that there are procedures that they can follow. They got to go to Congress. You want to abolish the Department of Education, as horrible of an idea as I believe that is, you have to go through Congress to do that. So he's not only doing things that I think are harmful to the American people, he's doing them in a way that is harmful to our system of justice and democracy.
Great. And then finally, forgive me.
I was just going to note, Representative Raskin, that what you said at the start of this is the core of many of the lawsuits we filed. Article 1 gives this body the broadest powers, particularly when it comes to passing laws, spending money. And a bulk of the cases we have talked about and have brought have been the president. When we say he can't act like a king, it means he can't take actions that you have done and put into law, signed into law by a president, passed by a Congress, and decide on a whim that he wants to, say, convert a Department of Transportation highway program into an immigration enforcement program. That is not what the Constitution allows. And so our lawsuits have been about standing up in many ways for the authority of this body to do the important work that it does.
The real crisis is the Epstein files Trump once promised to release, files he's now hiding. Trump keeps shouting about graffiti, about crime being out of control, but the numbers prove otherwise. The city has never been safer in 3 decades. If he truly cared about public safety, he could unlock the $1 billion his administration froze, money meant for schools, law enforcement, and community safety. Instead, he chooses to hold it hostage, leaving D.C. residents shortchanged. Why? Because this isn't about crime at all. It's about hiding something far more explosive, a crisis of public relations, a scandal that threatens to swallow him whole, the Epstein files. During his campaign, Trump swore he would make the Epstein files public. His FBI director once insisted that every page should be released. His attorney general even went on television, holding the files, promising transparency, and saying the infamous client list was sitting right there on her desk. But what happened next? An unsigned statement appeared, denying a client list even exists, declaring the files would remain sealed forever. The bait and switch was complete. Trump's Justice Department broke its promise, slammed the vault shut, and ensured the full story of Jeffrey Epstein's crimes and Trump's connection to them would stay buried. The pressure to keep those secrets hidden is growing by the day. Polls reveal that 71% of Americans believe Trump knew some, if not a lot, about Epstein's crimes before the investigations even began. Only 8% think he knew nothing, and nearly 60% disapprove of how he's handled the scandal. The numbers don't lie. People can see through the distractions. They know this cover-up is real, and they know it's deliberate. Trump isn't just fighting for his reputation. He's fighting for survival. Nowhere is that clearer than in the suspicious case of Ghislaine Maxwell's prison transfer. Convicted for exploiting and abusing girls as young as 14, Maxwell was supposed to be serving a tough sentence. Instead, she was quietly moved to a cushy minimum security camp in Texas, a facility usually barred to sex offenders. No walls, no harsh conditions. Some even call it a country club. The timing couldn't be more suspicious. Days before, Maxwell met privately with Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche, who just happens to be Trump's former criminal defense lawyer. Within 48 hours of those closed-door sessions, Maxwell's entire prison reality changed. Congressman Jamie Raskin and other Democrats on the House Judiciary Committee immediately smelled corruption. They sent a letter demanding every document, every detail of the meetings, and an explanation for Maxwell's sudden downgrade. The accusations are stark: possible witness tampering, conflicts of interest, and even suborning false testimony. They argue this wasn't about fairness or comfort. It was about leverage. Dangling rewards to secure Maxwell's cooperation, to coax her into reshaping her story in Trump's favor. And what's the ultimate prize on the table? Not a better meal plan, not looser restrictions, but something far more powerful: the prospect of a presidential pardon. Pam Bondi, Trump's loyal ally, finds herself in the spotlight too. She's not just accused of defending him politically. Critics say she may have stepped over the line into criminal territory. Bondi has fought tooth and nail to keep the Epstein files sealed, to protect Trump from devastating fallout, and in doing so, she's been accused of shielding an entire web of elites tied to Epstein's crimes. Because this cover-up isn't just about Trump, it's about every high-profile name that appears in those files. Bondi's actions, combined with the DOJ's suspicious decisions, raise one chilling possibility: that the system itself is being twisted to protect the powerful. For Epstein's victims, the transfer of Maxwell was another betrayal. Families of survivors were left in the dark, given no warning before Maxwell was moved to what looks more like a vacation camp than a prison. To them, it reeks of favoritism and corruption. They call it a cover-up happening in real time, and they're right. These decisions weren't made in the shadows. They unfolded in plain sight, with the entire country watching. The Department of Justice, the Bureau of Prisons, and Trump's inner circle all played a role. Even the courts have entered the fray. Recently, a federal judge rejected the administration's motion to unseal grand jury records related to Epstein and Maxwell, calling the request more about optics than actual transparency. Once again, the narrative control game is on full display. Trump and his allies want to look like they're pursuing justice while quietly working to rewrite history behind the scenes. Think about the sequence. Trump campaigns on releasing everything. His top officials echo the promise. Then comes the reversal: the denial of a client list, the sealing of files, the quiet transfer of Maxwell, and the suspicious meetings with Trump's own former defense lawyer. The dots connect themselves. This isn't a coincidence. This is strategy. A deliberate cover-up designed to shield Trump and protect a network of wealthy insiders who fear exposure. The evidence of panic is everywhere. Trump rails about crime in D.C. while ignoring actual data. His allies Kash Patel and Dan Bongino scramble for relevance, clawing their way back into MAGA's inner circle, desperate to keep the money machine alive. And Bondi, accused of manipulating the justice system, looks increasingly compromised. Even Trump's diehard supporters can't ignore the cracks forming in the story. The friendship between Trump and Epstein wasn't a rumor, it was real. Epstein himself said he was Trump's closest friend for a decade. The files exist. The question is, why is Trump fighting so hard to keep them buried? The answer seems clear. If the truth comes out, it won't just damage Trump. It could bring down an entire circle of powerful figures. That's why every rule has been twisted, every lever pulled, and every distraction thrown in front of the public eye. From graffiti scares to phantom crime waves, the playbook is the same. Keep people looking elsewhere, while the real scandal hides in plain sight. This is not subtle. It's brazen, it's calculated, and it's happening right now. The Epstein cover-up is not speculation. It's unfolding step by step in front of us. With every move, the story becomes clearer. Trump's promise of transparency was a lie. The DOJ's actions are suspect, and the beneficiaries are the very people who should be answering questions. That's why we have to keep the spotlight locked on it. We can't look away. We can't let them shape the narrative. We can't let this scandal quietly fade while the powerful walk free. Because if this cover-up succeeds, it sets a precedent that truth doesn't matter, that justice can be bought, and that crimes against the most vulnerable can be erased from history. If you're with us in exposing this, hit that subscribe button, smash the like, and if you've stuck around until now, drop a blue heart in the comments so we know you're part of this fight. Until next time, stay sharp, stay relentless, and keep the pressure.